Okay, welcome everyone, especially to those who have travelled far from overseas, Durban, Joburg. When Rain asked me to do the talk, I was very honoured, but also very nervous, and I am very nervous, so forgive me. I originally wanted to do a talk on my own personal journey, because I'm very passionate about where I've come from to where I'm now. And in saying that, I have an intention of writing my own book of my whole spiritual journey. So my whole talk was going to be on my particular journey. However, I'm sitting at work one day and I'm thinking, oh, am I going to have enough information? Or am I going to have enough to tell you to speak for an hour, for a solid 60 minutes? No, it's not going to work. So then I thought, right, let me look at it from an ancestor point of view, because the whole lustration was a celebration of the ancestors, and I thought, right, I'll do some research and work from there. So I started off by talking to a Xhosa woman that I work with. Her name is Kheper. And I thought, if I can get first-hand information as to how they interact with their ancestors, and how they work with their ancestors and what it means to them, the symbolism, etc., I thought that would be a good idea. And then I stumbled upon a lady called Robin Ann Pollard, who Tertia introduced me to, who is a lady that does tarot. A tarot from an African point of view. She's done it purely from African myths and legends. So my talk today is really not purely on the ancestors. I'm going to start a little bit with my personal journey, run into the ancestors, and then I'm going to take you into the tarot. Alright. Well, I started with Rain about 4 years ago, approximately 4 years ago. I did belong to another temple. It's been the most amazing 4 years of my life. It's been up and down. It's not an easy path to walk the spiritual path. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not all flowers and roses. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of introspection. It's a lot of self-work. And to get to this point has been really, really interesting. I've given you a little flyer. I just wanted to share 3 written pieces with you. I do what they call automatic verse when I go into meditation. And when I meditate, I write a bit of poetry. So I wanted to share with you just 3 pieces that I've written. The first one, stable on the top, is a morning prayer, which I wrote very recently, using the elements. But the second one, the experience of life, I wrote this on the 2nd of July 2007, when I think my spiritual journey really started. And I'm just going to read it to you. This poem was written for a girl called Debbie Farnham. She was going through a really rough time, and in a meditation I did some spiritual healing, and with the healing I actually wrote this for her. Sometimes we are happy, and sometimes we are sad. Sometimes we are grumpy, and sometimes we are glad. Life is not all bad as we see it, but rather an experience as we feel it. Be grateful for all that you have been given. Look around and make your own life worth living. It's up to you to start your day by just being grateful what has been thrown your way. Be it good or be it bad, take as an experience of life and be glad. Thank the universe for seemingly good and bad, for without them, we would never have had the experience of life. Pick yourself up and spoil a little. Be kind, gracious, not hard and brittle. Look in the mirror and say, gee, I am great. Don't wander around until it's too late. Get out there and laugh and sing and play, and I promise that tomorrow will be a brighter day. The last one on energy, when I was working with Kheper and my talk and the tarot, I did an evening meditation, and I was talking to a friend of mine about the flow and getting into the talk and learning about the ancestors and trying to get information from people. And I said to her, I was so stuck because I'm not getting enough information on the ancestors, and I wanted to give as much information as I can in my talk. And she said to me, just let it flow, just let it flow. So I did this meditation, and this is what came out of the meditation. Energy flows as the wind blows. Feel free from trouble and fears. Let love replace all the tears. Only tears of release will bring joy, happiness, peace, and lots, lots more. Let go of all the troubles that troubles you. Let love, peace, and joy pass through. Only then will you feel totally at peace, once you have let go and all release. Take time for yourself and meditate. Do it now, it's never too late. Take time to spoil yourself a little. Be kind, gentle, kind, not harsh and brutal. Once peace is felt from deep within, you will realize it's a win-win-win. Through trials and challenges and experience we go through, these make us stronger and remind us to stay true. True to ourselves and others as well, with good intent and a well-written spell. Working together, so much more we can achieve. Taking all the threads we start to weave. A perfect future, a picture, a seed, an extraordinary aid to each other, to each person's need. As the energy flows through each and every soul, we are truly connected as we make up a whole. As the cycles of time are spun over and over, we still remain energy which will continue to flow until we return to source. Okay, like I said, I'd like to share with you how I came about to do my talk, which I've now done. I'm going to go into what I've learned from this course I lady from at work. My first question to Proko was, how do you connect with your ancestors? And she said to me, well, the only way they really connect with their ancestors is when they actually have ceremonies. I'm going to go through two ceremonies, one being a death and one being a birth, just to give you an idea of when they invoke their ancestors or how they actually use their ancestors. There are 3 ceremonies when it comes to a death. Okay? The Xhosa people, before I go on, the diversity in South Africa is huge when it comes to African culture. What I've learned speaking to Robin and Pollard, Zana Mvula, who is a Sangoma, and this Xhosa lady, is that in South Africa we have the Zulus, the Tswana, there's the Pede, there's so many different African cultures. I am but taking one, which is Xhosa, and then even within the Xhosa tradition, you have different clans. So, and each clan will differ as to the rituals or what they actually do. So I'm basically taking one Xhosa clan and giving you an overall view of how they actually work.
Maybe you should explain what the Sangoma for Don, Ferry and Nji.
Okay, Sangomas in Africa, they are spiritual healers, counselors. They are in the African culture. What happens is, from generation to generation, the knowledge is passed down from an elder. It's normally a grandfather or grandmother within the African culture, and they are taught from the knowledge that they've obtained from their ancestors and their family. So it's passed down from generation to generation. It's not something that's written in a book. And it's very difficult when you actually go and do a course to become a Sangoma, because it can take you years. It can take you sometimes up to 10, 15 years to actually qualify to be a Sangoma. So they're basically a spiritual healer, counselor, somebody that the Africans look up to in their culture. Alright, so in the Xhosa tradition they have 3 ceremonies. The first one is basically just the burial. Okay. What happens in the burial with the burial is, depending on which clan you belong to, males prepare male bodies, females prepare female bodies. The first thing they do is they slaughter a cow. So the evening before the ceremony, the cow is brought to the farm or wherever the place is of the burial. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, that cow is slaughtered by one of the elders. it can be a Sangoma, but not necessarily. It's probably one of the family members, which is either a grandfather. It can't be a direct member of the family. So if the head of the household dies, his father can't go into that kraal and slaughter that cow. The kraal that is erected, it gives the family dignity. I asked for a lot of symbolism. And speaking to the Sangoma and to this lady at work, a lot of the symbolism has been lost in the tradition over the years, because everything has become so westernized that they just do. There's no more meaning, or very little meaning in what they do in the traditional Xhosa people today. So the first thing they do in every ceremony is they erect a kraal, which is round. The cow is slaughtered at 5 o'clock in the morning, and depending on the person that's passed over, if it is the head of the household, they normally try and choose a cow that doesn't have any markings or any spots, because that makes it more pure. So it's purity. The reason they slaughter the cow is in honor of that person's spirit that has passed over. So with the first ceremony, the cow is slaughtered at 5 o'clock in the morning. One of the women in the tribe are given the duty to actually cook the meat. So only one person will be allowed in that kraal. She will be possibly one of the elders or one of the highly respected women within the tribe. She then cooks this meat in a special pot. And what I try to also do with the information that I received is see the similarities of what we do. So we use our cauldron. They have a special pot to cook in. And that pot is only used in ceremonies for the meat of the animal that is slaughtered. In the case of a woman or a child, they will use a goat or a sheep. They will not use a cow. A cow is only used for the male. So what happens is the cow is slaughtered by the elders. The Sangoma is normally there, and he invokes the ancestors, sends prayers to the ancestors, and asks for the guidance and protection of the ancestors in letting this person's spirit that is passed on move on. That is within the first ceremony. Everybody partakes of the meal. No meat is left behind. That's why the Xhosa tradition, they invite absolutely everybody to their ceremony so that they finish all the food. The meat is cooked separately to the samp and the gravy and the veggies. They don't eat it together. I asked why, and they said that's just the way they do it. So I didn't find any symbolism there. Well, the second ceremony, this is a very sad ceremony. This is where the ancestors are, I think, more prominent in the sense that they still slaughter the cow, they still go through the whole ceremony. But in the second ceremony, which normally happens a year after the person's passed on, they let the person's spirit go to meet the ancestors. And they ask the ancestors to help this person deal with any wrongs in their life, any unresolved issues. And they let the person's spirit go, and they ask the ancestor to take the spirit of the person and cleanse that person. And then with the third ceremony, which is their biggest one, this is a huge celebration. This normally happens about 3 months after the person's passed on. This is where they invite the spirit, the person's spirit back. So they have this huge ceremony again where they erect a kraal, slaughter the cow, the ancestors are invoked, and they ask the ancestors to let this person's spirit come back to protect and guide them. Now, I had a little bit of contradicting information, because when I spoke to Sangoma, he said to me, not everybody can be an ancestor. You get ancestors and you get predecessors. So I asked him to explain a little, and he said, well, if everybody came back as ancestors, he said, we wouldn't have spiritual teachers, specific spiritual teachers that we could look up to that would give guidance and protection and teachings and what have you, because then everybody would be one. Although everybody could teach, but specifically in their culture, not everybody can be an ancestor. A child, for instance, cannot be an ancestor because they believe the child hasn't lived very long, they haven't experienced life, So there's not much that the child can actually give in the sense of knowledge and passing down knowledge from generation to generation. So children generally have one funeral, which is normally the first one where they are buried. The ancestors are asked to take care of that child when that child crosses over, and they won't have a second or a third ceremony. With the third ceremony, the person will be called back by their clan name. They have their Xhosa name and their clan name. Now, if you take Mandela, for instance, Mandela, when Mandela passes over, he will be called back as Madiba. They will call him back as Madiba, not Mandela. Also within the third ceremony, they have, this is the only celebration they have where they drink alcohol, which is their own home-brewed beer, which is called umqombothi. It's the only time that they consume alcohol within ceremonies. Also the meat is also eaten separately, and a lot of traditional drumming and dancing takes place within the third ceremony. These pictures I took of my BlackBerry, so they're not very, very clear. But this lady, this is a traditional African dress. It had lots of beads, lots of color. So I just took that off my BlackBerry with this lady that sent me the photo, just to give you an idea. They wear lots of beads in their hair, around their neck, around their wrists, and also they wear lots of bells and things on their ankles as well. That's their traditional dress. This gentleman here is an elder. This is an elder in Proko's particular clan. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, I didn't take note of his name. He's wearing a very long blue necklace. He is the only one in the tribe, he's one of the elders, that is allowed to wear that long blue beaded necklace, which is normally made by a grandmother or a sangoma. In this particular case, was made by a sangoma for this particular elder. I'll come back to that one later. But he's also got lots of beads. Their traditional dress, the women dress in very colorful dresses with beads. In the third ceremony, the men are purely in blankets. A little bit of beading in the hair or a little thingy on the head, but traditionally they wear blankets in the third ceremony. So in the third ceremony, as I said, it was to call the spirit back. And they also paint their faces. Now, third ceremony, the whole family, the whole community, everybody's invited. Once again, all the meat has to be consumed, all the food has to be consumed. So it really costs them a fortune. Within their tradition, they all come together with every single ceremony, and everybody contributes. Because as you can well imagine, just having a cow, slaughtering a cow, could be cost you quite a bit of money. Okay, then going on to, oh, sorry, there's one other thing. Very interesting aspect, one of which the Sangoma actually explained to me is that when they partake of the meat, they actually, in the first bite, they actually spit it out on the hand and they're rid of it. And that is symbolic in ridding of negativity. So the very first bite of meat, they spit on the hand and they throw it aside, and it actually gets buried. All the bones are burnt and buried after the ceremonies, and the blood of the cow when they slaughter the cow is actually buried. And that is in honor of the person that has passed over. Then going on to a birth. Birth is likened to a baptism. The ceremony is called Mbeleko, which means to give birth. And the purpose of this ceremony is to introduce the child to the ancestors and ask for the protection of the child, and also so that the ancestors can connect with that child. The elders perform the ceremony, and because they do not slaughter a cow, they use a goat or a sheep. They only invite the family, the immediate family, because they have to consume all the food, and a goat or a sheep is not enough because Xhosa families are huge. I mean, they have, some of them have 10 kids, 20 kids, and it keeps going. Okay, so they only invite the family, who will then partake of all the meat. The elder or the Sangoma of the tribe will take the child into the kraal when the animal is slaughtered, and everybody else stays outside. The blood of the animal is wiped on the clothes that is bought for the newborn child. This I found very interesting. everybody that buys a gift for the child that has been born, once they've eaten the meal, they don't have serviettes or anything, and they eat everything by hand. They wipe their hands on everything that they've bought for that child. And then that is given to the mother, and the mother has to then wash those clothes, and then it is then given to the child. In some cases, in some tribes, they wait until the child is about 2 or 3, so that the child can actually partake of the meat, because some of them believe that if the animal is slaughtered, they should actually eat of the meat. And even in that case, when the animal is slaughtered and everybody's eating the same thing, whatever's bought for that child, clothing-wise, the hands get wiped and the clothing gets washed by the mother. I don't know why. I asked them what the symbolism was, and they said to me, just done. Okay. During the ceremony, the birth ceremony, the grandmother, if there's no grandmother, it will be a sangoma or one of the elders. During the whole ceremony, will sit and bead a white necklace. And the white stands for purity, and this necklace is then put on the child as a symbolism to welcome that child into that clan and to welcome the child to the ancestors. Sometimes they don't do it at birth, and then what happens is when you're a little bit older, you have the same ceremony, but you get a different beaded necklace, which is normally like this one. Normally with a child, it's very closely. The beads are very close together, so it's almost like a band that they put around the child's neck. But if you're older, then they just do something very simple like that. Okay. The grandmother or auntie, or the elder, or sangoma, will send prayers to the ancestors, asking for the blessings and the protection of the newborn child. White is again for purity, as I said, when you're born, and the meat is also eaten separately, as in all the other ceremonies. However, there's one difference between a birth and a death. When a child is born, they take big leaves, and all the meat is served on big leaves. All the sap and gravy served on separate leaves, and the veggies again on separate leaves. Everything's served on leaves, and I asked why they do this, and again, it's just the done thing. Sometimes they wait for the child to actually grow up a little bit, because when children are born, it's a very expensive thing. So with the partaking of the meat when the child is little, it's also a very expensive affair. So they normally, for those that are less fortunate, they will wait until the child has grown up a little bit so that they can actually afford it. Then the initiation. This differs again from tribe to tribe. The Zulus, I found out that the Zulus do it between the ages of 15 and 18. The Xhosas do it between 11 and 13. However, they can be initiated at the age of 28. They have the same ceremony where a cow is slaughtered. But here again, when the boy goes to the bush, in some traditions, once the whole trial period is over and they become a man, everything is burnt. In the Zulu tradition, everything is burnt. They burn their reed huts, they burn their reed skirts, they burn everything that they use within that time period. Where in the Xhosa tradition, they leave everything to disintegrate. Especially when they erect the kraal for every ceremony, be it a death, birth, initiation, the kraals are actually left to just disintegrate on their own. The wind blows them away or whatever, but everything is just scattered in the wind. When the Zulu tradition, they burn everything and they bury everything. I'm speaking to the white sangoma by the name of Zanamvula. Very interesting man, very humble man. I asked him if he could share with me a little bit more about the ancestors. He wasn't very helpful, and all he said to me was, if you go to a doctor and you want information, you must pay. So I said, yes, I pay. He says, if you go to any spiritual healer for any spiritual healing treatment, what happens? Do you pay? Do you not? Yes, you pay. So he said to me, why do you think we don't get information from the black tradition. And he explained to me it's because for years the white man has ridiculed the black man, and for that reason they don't want to share. They don't want to share the information. They don't want to pass down any information to us. It stays within their tradition, within their clan, within their own family. So the only way we actually get information is if, particularly like this person at work that I know, or the white Sangoma, to get information from the black people. They're not keen to share any information. It took me about 4 weeks to get the little bit of information that I did out of Progo during lunchtimes and tea times. They're just simply not keen to share. I was very surprised. I asked Progo to give me a dress so that I could actually show you what the African dress looks like. They're not prepared to do that. They don't part with anything. It stays within their tradition. They're very, very hard and fast on that. And then I asked the white Sangoma, why is there not much symbolism? Because we always have, you know, we associate with the elements, the directions, etc. And I asked if there was anything like that within their tradition. And the white Sangoma turned around and he said to me, no, nothing is symbolic today. Everything is just done. So unfortunately, I was hoping to give you a little bit more about their ancestors, but this is about as much information as I could get. Okay. He also mentioned to me that if a person passes over, not everybody can be an ancestor because you have murderers, you have people with bad attachments. So if that person passes over, how can that person come back and actually be your ancestor? Now, in the Xhosa tradition, they believe that's why you have 3 ceremonies. You first buried, then your spirit is left to go and meet the ancestors, and then you are called back. So then I had a very interesting question. I said to her, what happens if you commit suicide? So she says, oh no, very bad luck. Bad luck. Then you just get buried, and the ancestors are asked to take your spirit and set your spirit free. No second ceremony, no third ceremony. Purely you just get buried. It's a very quiet ceremony. They will only use a goat or a sheep. You will not have a cow. It will be a goat, sheep, sometimes even a chicken, depending on the family. And it will be a very quiet ceremony. You will be buried, and that will be it. The ancestors will just be asked to look after you, and that is about it. Zanamvula does a course on entities, which describes a lot about the African ancestors. So I asked him if he'd share a little bit with me, but he was very reluctant, and he said to me, come and do my next course. So I know somebody that's actually done the course. It's a 4-day course. It starts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But he works a lot with entities, which is attachments. They believe that your body has certain attachments. You have a turtle on your back, or you have a lizard attached to you, and everything is symbolic, and it's a hoha, but it's all very, very African based. So hopefully in the very near future I will be joining Zanamvula to do one of these courses, because I think it could be quite interesting. Okay.
When you said for Americans, the hoha is an insect.
Hoha is an insect.
Yes, it's the Afrikaans word for a bug.
Hoha. Yeah. They believe in the what's that thing with lots of legs?
Centipede.
Centipede. They call it the thank you. Okay. Then I just want to share a little bit with you the iTongo. Okay. This is a book written by Robin Ann Pollard. It's a tarot deck based on South African myths and legends. What she's done, she's actually taken the whole of Africa, South Africa, and she's broken it up into the different regions. She's got the people of the east, south, west, and the north. So she's used directions. She's actually used the actual percentages of the census that were done for the people in that area, and her cards will reflect the cards of the east will reflect all the Zulus. The cards of the south will have the Xhosa, and the people of the west will be the Sotho Tswana, and the people of the north will be the Pedi, Vendi, and Ndebele. Bearing in mind that in these regions they will be integrated as well. They will be all over, but they are dominantly the Zulu people will be of the east. So she's broken it up very nicely, and she gives you the card divisions of all the different cultures. Okay, then she's taken the majors, and she's broken it into a title, a concept, an additional reference, an invitation, a vision, quest, and an information box. Now each tarot card, starting from naught being the beginning of the Fool's Journey, naught is the start of, in the African culture, where they are initiated, from boyhood into man. Okay. But I've chosen 3 cards, and I've chosen these 3 cards purely because they resonate with me more than anything else. I've chosen the Baobab tree, which is 2, which is the High Priestess. I've chosen Earth, which is the snake swallowing its tail, Iminyana. And I've taken the Wheel of Fortune, the Tuba, which is the rainbow. Okay, and I would like to just share with you each of those cards and the meanings of those cards, just to give you an idea. If you'd like to, you can pass those cards around the tarot deck so people can have a look at them. I'm going to start with the High Priestess, who's Moyo, and just to give you an indication of how her tarot deck works. Okay, she has the High Priestess, that's card number 2. Moyo is the African traditional name. The picture depicted on the card is the Baobab tree. And then she says, Moyo invites you to heal through nature. And then she gives the meaning of the card, the vision quest, and then she gives a little bit of background about the picture of the card, which will sometimes also give you the actual place, the origin of that tradition. Okay, so the High Priestess is the Baobab tree. Now, I have a fascination for trees. I love Baobab trees. I love any dead trees that have very different forms. So for me, this was really something. And the Baobab tree has so much to offer because it has so much nourishment. It has every part of the tree can be used. So I found that extremely interesting. Okay, so the concept is intuition, self-resourcefulness, dissolving barriers, the oracle, and releasing boundaries. Then she goes on to say, Moyo invites you to heal through nature, the universal mother, seeking esoteric knowledge, secrets revealed through dreams, abundant potential, finding balance through intuition and insight, increased self-esteem, common sense, value or independence, and democracy. The iTongo quest vision, she says, practice meditation, visualization, and prayer. Start a dream journal and find your still point, your inner oasis. And then she goes on to give you a little bit of history about the Baobab trees. And then they also have a lot of the African stories. So I'm going to just read one of them for you. Let's see here. Okay. Many myths and folklores are associated with Baobab. The San believes the Baobab had offered God, and in revenge, God planted the tree upside down. So that's why the Baobab tree has those branches that so it looks like their roots are reaching the sky. Okay. The San believed that any person who plucked the flowers would be torn apart by lions as punishment for the disturbing spirits in the flowers. It is also believed that after soaking the pips in water, the drinker will be mighty and protected from crocodiles. Almost every part of the tree is useful to man. A single baobab may hold as much as 4,500 liters of water. Their white flowers are large, sweet-smelling, often likened to the stars of the evening sky, as they only bloom at night. The pollen of the flowers yields an excellent glue, and the seeds are pleasant to suck, rich in protein, calcium, oil, and phosphates. Or they can be ground and roasted to make coffee. The Order of the Baobab. The Order of the Baobab represents exceptional contribution and is awarded to South African citizens for distinguished service that goes beyond the call of duty. I didn't actually know this actually existed until I actually read this tarot. The categories include struggle for democracy, building democracy and human rights, national building, peace and security, journalism, literature, arts, culture, sports and music, business and economy, science, medicine, and technological innovation. The Order of the Baobab is awarded in 3 classes of gold, silver, and bronze. Okay, so that was the Baobab. Then I'm going to take Earth, which is 20. Earth is called Iminyama. Yeah, Iminyama. And refers to the ancestors. Good judgment, rebirth, introspection, transformation, evaluation, and metamorphosis. Iminyama invites you to follow your destiny, reaping rewards from the past actions, analysis and evaluation, absolution, responsibility, new view of reality, making wise judgment, integration, wholeness, ancestral and family matters, and avoidable influences. And the iTongo Vision Quest is, what is your awakening? How are you renewed? Are you observing situations objectively and fairly? The ancestors who are the Iminyanya, or called the Amadozi, or Madimo, or Badzemo, or Abazemu, all these terms refer to those who have died and joined the spiritual world. In most African culture, death is viewed not as destruction of life, but immortality of spirit. It is believed that when a man dies, he often turns into a snake, and the snake is named iTongo, or Amatongo. Now, iTongo, the name of the tarot, actually means spirit. The snake is commonly found in African mythology and is regarded as immortal because it sheds its skin and continues to live. For the Zulu, the snake is a metamorphosized amalgam of the ancestors, who visit either in dreams or in reality. They also come in visions, and one thing that Sangoma actually mentioned was that the Africans don't only dream at night, they have lots of visions during the day, those that actually have true visions. So for the Zulu, the snake is metamorphosized, an amalgam of the ancestors who visit either in dreams or reality. A snake that enters the house is unthreatening and is viewed as family, and as such is never harmed. The Uyoboros, which is the tail devourer, is a snake depicted with the tail in its mouth. Now on the back of all the tarot cards, she uses the actual art of the snake swallowing its tail. Considered the symbol of eternity, it is present in many African works, cloth patterns, wall paintings, and metalworks. According to legend, the snake carried the Creator in his mouth while the earth was being created. The Creator feared that the earth would sink into the sea beneath the weight of the mountains. The snake coiled itself around the earth, holding firm with its tail in its mouth, and this hold must never be loosened. Otherwise, all of creation will disintegrate. In order for the African people to live in harmony with the Creator and creation, all natural laws and observances were divinely revealed to the first African generation as community at the beginning of time. Death of that generation meant the beginning of the intercession between the living and the Creator, or ancestor worship, as the first generation had not joined the spiritual world, thereby marking the beginning of the ancestors. Many African people regard the earth as a female deity, a mother goddess, who rules all people and is the mother of all all creatures. The earth lives and gives birth to ever new generations of being, and the ancestors live in the earth. The earth's elements, fire, air, water, are recognized as gifts from the Great Mother, yet the earth is seldom worshipped. Nevertheless, the earth has a very powerful spirit that rules over life and death. And that is Inimanyama, the ancestors. And then I won't bore you any further. Number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. Now the Wheel of Fortune is depicted on the cover of iTongo and depicts the rainbow bull. The Wheel of Fortune is called Ituba or Amatuba, which means chance and opportunity. Concept. It is for breakthrough, prosperity, karma, abundance, opportunity, and cycles. Ituba invites you to manifest internal abundance externally. It is for increased wealth, optimism, order and generosity, sudden events, new beginnings, creative and inspired, change, the cycles of life, occasion and timelessness, principle of cause and effect, association with law, religion and education. The iTongo Vision Quest is what opportunities are being offered to you. So should you draw this card, you would ask yourself, what am I drawing to myself? Are you prepared for your destiny? Create a vision board. So it has a lot to do with creativity. And you'll see this card actually has the 4 different seasons with a tree in the shades of each season going from summer, autumn, winter, spring. The rainbow bull depicted on this card. In African culture, for the earth to become plentiful, the rainbow bull must be quietly stalked and lassoed by the horns with a leather thong, which has been blessed by a sangoma. This huge, powerful creature grazes in the reeds at the resources of spring, and once caught will be led across the lands that men wish to make fertile. They say, then, say the legends, the rain will fall and the lightning will flash. Other legends tell that when it starts raining, the bull has to be killed and cut up into pieces, which are thrown where the rain must fall. In these places, food will grow in abundance. To the indigenous people, even rain clouds can appear as monstrous rain beasts, gigantic monsters filled with rain. They believe that if the rain falls softly and gently, it is the rain cow wetting the earth. And if the rain is accompanied by thunder and lightning, then the rain bull is in attendance. The bull must be kept calm and appeased at all times, otherwise his anger will release violent storms and thunder and lightning. Another very interesting thing that I was told by this lady from work is that when they actually slaughter an animal in the kraal for all their ceremonies, the louder the animal actually makes a noise while it's being slaughtered, the more they consider it good and good luck. As if to say, well, the ancestors will hear them. This is really good luck for that person's spirit that is actually passing over. Okay, so I've only taken 3 cards out of the tarot, just to give you a very brief overview. And I hope it was interesting. I hope you've gathered some knowledge. And if you have any questions,